I tried to fire my backhoe this morning and wouldn't run. First I thought there's diesel issue, but then I discovered there's no power coming to this solenoid to turn it on and off. This will enable the injector pump if you put 12 volt, and if you remove the 12 volt, the engine will die. So I ran this green wire through the engine compartment and I hook it to the battery, and I was able to start it. Since I bought the backhoe, there's a few electrical issues with it, and I know at one day I have to fix them. I opened this compartment over here, a rat got in, and he finished the job. He chewed all these wires over here. This one over here, he even chewed the copper. So I have to repair this. I have everything I need to repair the wiring of this backhoe. I bought some fuses, different sizes, because the rat or the squirrel chewed some of the fuses. I am going to solder all the connection when I splice the wire or when I extend them. I'm going to use solder and solder iron, and I will wrap it with this shrink tube. I'll show you how to do that. If you don't have this, you could use these. They sell them at the auto store, and you could use them to connect your wires. The red or pink is for 18 gauge wire. The blue for 14 gauge wire. The yellow for 12 gauge wire. Or you could use these. They call them popcorns around here, and you could use those to connect the wires like this, and use a tool like this one to crimp it. I have wire stripper to be able to strip the wires and cut them. I will remove the part where it's been chewed. And I have the scrap wires, different sizes, 18 gauge, 14 gauge, to be able to connect the wires. And now I'm ready to start this job. If you are planning to use this, You see inside they have the metal part. It's little bit inside the plastic. When you strip the wire, you don't have to strip it too much. Just strip it little bit. And as you see, this part went all the way in and touched the metal. And now I'm ready to crimp it. This tool has insulated and non-insulated part, so we're going to crimp it using the insulated. They have some splices, it's just the metal, it just doesn't have the plastic on it. And this make good connection. You could also, after you do the splice, you could use some electric tape to go on top of this one. Make sure you don't strip the wire too much. When I was repairing the dump truck, they did this. And they use similar type of connectors, and when they crimp them, the wire is hanging out like this. This is dangerous because it could lead to short, and it will damage your vehicle or may even catch it on fire, so don't do this. Make sure you do it like this. To use these popcorns, splice the wires like this and use the smallest one that fit on the connection. You see this too big. And same thing, I'm going to use the insulated part of this tool and I'll crimp the wires. And as you see, there is no wire sticking out, so this is safe. And like I said, you could top it with some electric tape. And you are good to go. If it's something subject to weather, you could put some silicone and use electric tape, or you could use some shrink tubing that fit on the part, and then use heat gun and it will shrink on the silicone. This way it will be waterproof. The best way to solder wires is to insert a shrink tube, or if you are going to use electric tape, that's fine. Insert the shrink tube and set it away from the joint where you are going to solder, because the heat from the solder iron will make it shrink and you won't be able to use it. So set it away and then try to do this. Try to open the wires and then put them like this and then twist them on each other. So these will hold this or will hold itself, and then you could use your solder iron and solder to heat this part and solder them together. Once the solder cooled, then push the shrink tube and heat it with the heat gun or a small torch or lighter until it shrink, and you are done. Try to use a shrink tube that fit on the wire easily so you don't fight it, because once you solder this, it's going to be a little bit bigger. I'm showing you this not on the backhoe because I probably won't be able to show you this in detail because the wires is so tight and there's a lot of wiring. It looked almost like a rat nest. So I thought to share these tips with you. I disconnected the battery. and this dashboard is held by 4 screws. I remove them, and of course it start raining. The rats or squirrel around here, they serious, they eat metal. If you in similar situation, don't cut the tie wraps or the tape if it's keep the wire together, because this will give you indication where the wire go, especially if they are color coded. I could tell this white wire goes here and this red wire goes here. And like I said, I'm going to replace the fuses. This is still good, but I will replace them because the plastic gone. I don't want this to cause short. If any piece of metal fell inside, it may arc between the frame of the backhoe and the fuse. I will cut this wire until I get to clean area. Then I will extend it and solder it to this connector. There are several spots I need to do that too. This one right here. I probably won't be able to record the whole process, but I'll probably show you one wire, how I will solder it and use the shrink tube to give you an idea if you have to do similar repair. This wire over here is still good. I'll probably just use some electric tape to keep it in place. I already washed the machine to remove any contaminant from the animal urine or feces. So if I handle it, I won't get sick from it. And I sprayed it with little bit of bleach and then I washed it. So everything clean and good to go. I'm cleaning the wire before I apply tape to make sure the tape will stick good. I am going to try to fix as much wire as I can before I cut the tie wraps. Some of the wires like here, I have to cut the tie wraps to be able to solder them. Once I finish this repair, I'll figure out a way to close this compartment so animal won't be able to get inside and do this. The best material to close holes for wire compartment like this is to use a stainless steel wool to put it inside, because the animal won't be able to chew it, and it's sharp, it will keep them away. I'm planning in the near future to redo some of the wiring on this backhoe, but for now I need it operational. There is also some damage in the engine compartment of the wiring. I will repair that as well. Everything else look good. I just have to solder this wire and cut the tie wraps in this area and solder these wires. Cut small piece of shrink tubing. I probably will be able to replace the connector inside this connector. I need to go get smaller screwdriver. They have a latch on the back side, this part right here, and it will keep it in place inside the plastic. You just need to use your screwdriver, insert it in, and push down on it to be able to pull it out. This is the right size connector. I'm just going to remove the plastic. If you twist the plastic like this, it will come off. And this right now is non-insulated. So I'm going to use the non-insulated part, and I'll put it like this. This one doesn't have the latch to keep it in place. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert it all the way and use electric tape and tape it to the other wires to keep it in place. Okay, this black wire, it also lost the rubber around it. I'm going to insert 2 shrink tubing on each wire because I'm going to extend these wires. I find these two pieces of wire the same color. If you only have one color, it's fine. Just do one wire at the time. I will run the generator, and once the solder iron get to temperature, then I show you how I'm going to solder it. I am going to use rag underneath this wire, so when I solder it, if any solder fall down, it will not damage the other wire. I replaced the bad fuses. I cleaned the wire with electric tape and I tie wrap them, and I'm ready to reinstall the dashboard into the backhoe. I had to repair a few wires in the engine compartment. However, it was difficult to record because, as you see, it's deep inside. I cleaned the battery terminals with wire brush, and I cleaned the terminal with some sandpaper. I am going to cut piece of rubber, put it under the battery, and then I will install the covers over here and on the engine. I tested the battery before I install it. I used my voltmeter, I put it on DC scale, and the battery was reading around 12.5 volt DC. I installed it and checked, and it still read the same. And then I ran the machine, and it was reading around 13.5 volt DC. So the alternator is charging the battery. The fuse for the alternator was damaged. I had to pull it out and clean it a little bit. So I was testing to make sure the alternator is charging the battery before I install the cover. I apply grease on the terminals to protect them from corrosion. And now I'm going to install the cover in this area and on the engine compartment. I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you for watching. Be safe and have a good day.